Hola, muy buenas a todos, ¿qué tal? Soy Zohan y hoy tenemos nuevo episodio del Dev Diary de Payday 3. Es el anteúltimo número 8, el próximo será el de lanzamiento. Hoy toca narrativa y sonido. Antes de nada, hay una cosa muy irónica y es que precisamente en el sonido este vídeo hay un pequeño fallo que al parecer no se puede solucionar. Sobre narrativa y sonido y falla el audio. Es gracioso. Vamos a ver de qué trata esta.
There are
Sí.
some ties to old villains, for sure, yeah.
Es una historia de venganza. Viejos villanos
About 5
vuelven
years
para
has
hacernos
passed
daño.
since the events
Ya lo
of
comenté.
Payday 2, where the gang
5
of
años.
the White House, and after that the gang went into retirement, living off the enormous amounts of money that they've made over their heisting careers. But in Payday 3, some of the people that they've wronged in the past figure out that the gang is very much alive still, and that they stole pardons. So in this universe, that sort of heist works, and therefore the cops aren't doing anything, and some of these people learn about this, and they're not happy about that at all. So they conspire to have the Payday gang killed, hire assassins, and as a precaution, they also make sure to freeze all their assets.
Resumiendo rápidamente, han pasado 5 años desde que terminamos el final canónico de Payday, en el que Bane termina siendo el presidente. Hay un montón de vídeos donde explico de qué va esto, podéis buscarlos. Y 5 años después, la Payday Gang sigue más viva que nunca. Los enemigos que tuvimos o la gente con la que nos cruzamos anteriormente en Payday 2 y en Payday The Haze quieren venganza, porque les hemos hecho daño y no les gusta que sigamos por ahí haciendo de las nuestras impunes, porque al parecer en la policía de los Estados Unidos no está haciendo nada para bloquearnos. Entonces, parece ser que estos villanos van a tomar cartas en el asunto. Van a tomar la justicia por su mano y empiezan, no sé cómo, bloqueándonos las cuentas.
Just in case the assassination attempts fail, the reasoning being that in that case, at least the heisters won't have any resources, they won't have any money to be able to retaliate on these assassination attempts. But of course, we do know that
Vale, bloquean las cuentas para, por si los intentos de asesinato a la Payday Gang nos van a intentar matar. Parece que va a haber villanos que nos van a perseguir a lo largo de los 6. Por si falla esto, no tengamos dinero para poder contraatacar. Está guay.
at least a few. We don't know if any of the actual assassination attempts actually succeed, but Dallas, Hoxton, Wolf, and Chains survive along with Joy. And they are contacted by an old associate of Bane, a woman called Shade, who manages to reach them just in time before the assassination attempts. And she gathers them all up in New York, promising them that she will do her best to try to get to the bottom of this conspiracy, to learn who's behind it, and get them some payback.
Me pregunto yo si cuando empecemos el juego tenemos que echar mano de hemeroteca, buscar este vídeo y ver de qué trata esto. ¿Estará dentro del juego toda esta información? Porque me resulta muy interesante, pero luego, por ejemplo, en Payday 2 no estaba. No había manera de saber todo esto hasta tiempo después que metieron la trama. Por lo visto, hubieron intentos de asesinato, nos bloquearon las cuentas y una mujer llamada Shade, que es una antigua compañera o amiga o conocida de Bane, contacta con nosotros, nos reúne en Nueva York para seguir consiguiendo dinero para podernos vengar nosotros de la venganza que hemos creado nosotros en algún momento. La premisa es bastante guay y una buena excusa, porque no nos tenemos que olvidar que esto es una trama de un videojuego. Tenemos que tener una excusa para seguir robando. Llevamos 10 años robando. Ahora, ¿por qué después de 5 volvemos a robar? Pues porque nos intentan matar y no tenemos dinero para podernos vengar de esos intentos de asesinato. Chachi.
But first, they need to get back to heisting, because since they don't have any money left, they need to raise money somehow.
Cool.
What makes the audio of Payday interesting is that we are trying to keep it grounded, but still going for the power fantasy and really get the player in charge of
Gustavo.
his or her own experience.
For the music of Payday 3, the real challenge was to
Betty
honor
Free.
the legacy that we had. You know, some really good and loved music that the community really enjoy for Payday 2 and Payday the Heist, and bring something new in the mix. So that was really the challenge. Yeah, and I brought some of my influences as well. Some from electronic music and bass music, but also some rock and metal. And trying to mix it together with what we already had as a foundation from the other games. It's been a fun challenge.
Y toda esta mezcla nos recuerda pues, a lo que dice un poco Gustavo. Nos recuerda sobre todo a los inicios de Payday 2, a los inicios de Payday the Haze, los riffs de guitarra, los bajos. Todo en conjunto nos recuerda a los inicios de la saga de Payday.
Very difficult. Yeah, I really like the point that the music is right now.
We talked about 50% Payday the Heist, 20% Payday 2, and 30% Gustavo.
Yeah, we had that formula going on since the beginning. Yeah, that's true.
Me encanta, es un auténtico genio.
In Payday 3 we are going
Va como
for a little
quiere,
bit more
componiendo,
serious
descalzo
tone,
completamente.
in the game. It's still based very much about the Hollywood heist fantasy, you being a master criminal, but it still has the base sentiment of it being a game with a good vibe. It should be a good time, even though, I mean, the heisters are killing a lot of cops, but it's done in a way to make it feel lighthearted. It's more of the situational type of humor where it can be really serious, but a thing that happens makes it funny.
What do you mean I sound nervous? You sound nervous. I'm not nervous at all.
The way the music is set up in Payday 3 right now.
La
is
nueva
that,
voz de Wolf, ¿eh?
We have these different states that they correspond to what's happening in the game. So we have 5 different intensities of stealth. Then that moves into a control state. Then anticipation, assault. It's kind of what we had in Payday 2
Esto lo
as well.
expliqué en el vídeo
And,
mío
the
de
music, it
música y
changes
sonido de Payday.
accordingly to
Echar un ojo.
what's going on in the heist. So when there's a police assault, everything ramps up, and when they regroup, it slows down a bit, but you're still pumping the player, and you get into that loop. Usually I'm led by the heist that I'm working on, so I make each song for each heist, and I let the setting and the objectives of the heist lead me, and usually I try to find the tempo first. So some heists I feel they need faster tempo, others can work better in slower tempos. And I go from there trying to find hooks. Sometimes it can be like a melody, sometimes a bass line, sometimes it's just a rhythm.
We put a lot of emphasis on building the world and get an immersive experience. So if you explore our heists, you will find interesting sounds from every corner of the heist.
He jugado 2 mapas de este juego, luego 99 boxes no lo he probado. He jugado, para que os hagáis una idea, el mapa del banco, ¿vale? Que es No habrá paz para los impíos, y he jugado bajo el Surface, ¿vale? Que es el mapa que hemos visto hace un par de meses del museo. En el mapa del museo los sonidos son una barbaridad, son una locura. Os recomiendo que cuando salga el juego, cuando lo probéis, o ya sea el día 18, con el acceso anticipado, o ya sea el día 21, que os deis una vuelta por el mapa y vais a flipar. Es una inmersión sonora y gráfica como nunca antes vista en Payday. Increíble.
There's actually a lot of thought going into what we're stealing, how we go about stealing it. These heisters are meant to be the best of the best, and the approach on how they go about these heists should, in most cases, reflect what actual master criminals would do. and also about why you're stealing certain things, what's the purpose of them, how would this could this be feasible in the real world or not. It should feel like, yeah, that's plausible. I can buy that.
Set up thermite in the hallway right above the vault.
You should always play with sound because you have features or you have game mechanics where audio is really aiding your experience, like hearing where the enemies are or where your teammates are, or if they shout for help, or like it adds to your experience. Because you can hear in 360 degrees, but you can only see in like 90.
The main story of Payday 3.
Va a haber cinemáticas. Sí, por favor, va a haber cinemáticas, gente. No lo sabía. No lo sabía. Sí, ha sido respondido. Esta historia va a estar dentro del juego. Sí. Genial. Canta.
Is where you get introductory cinematics that
Censura.
explains
Wow.
the lead up to the heist that you're about to play, given the situation with the conspirators and where the characters are at that point in time. Then you
Uy, pero cuánta influencia de Hitman. Las cinemáticas de Hitman eran así, eran muy buen sonido, muy buen doblaje. Y luego eran imágenes prácticamente estáticas de los personajes. Eso sí, muy definidas, muy bien hechas. Y me recuerda mucho a esas cinemáticas. No está mal, ¿eh? No está nada mal. Es un estilo único que parece que Payday pues, ha recogido y lo abraza. Y parece que vamos a tener algo parecido así. Viendo 4 fotogramas que he visto.
play the heist, and then afterwards you get sort of another cinematic that explains the aftermath of that heist, basically. But there's also just a few little nuggets of information strewn about in some of the heists. Things that can reveal a little bit of character backstory and what their ideas about things really are, and also some foreshadowing what's to come. Since 5 years have passed since the events of the end of Payday 2, the heisters they have matured a bit. For instance, Joy, she was 23 at the end of Payday 2, so she is 28 now. And you can tell from the way she expresses herself. She doesn't count points as much anymore, like she used to do in Payday 2. So she is a little bit more mature in the way she expresses herself. And the same with Dallas. Dallas is one of the oldest heisters. And even though he still loves the world of heisting, that's his home, that's where he wants to be. You can sort of tell that there are parts of him that would have liked to stay in retirement. So he's maybe a little less wordy than he used to be. He's a little bit more somber. While somebody like Wolf, for instance, he's been through hell during retirement. That's the worst part of his life ever. So he's just exuberantly happy that somebody has tried to kill them and steal all their money.
¿Qué le habrá pasado a Wolf? Que está feliz con volver a esa locura.
We will see Simon Kerr, Pete Gold, and Damien Portier returning as Dallas, Hoxton, and Chains. Wolf will be returning as well, but with a new voice. For Wolf, we've been trying to find a voice that fits into the ensemble that we have, but also keeping it interesting for Payday 3.
It's been a lot of fun developing some of these new characters. We have a new character, a new heister called Pearl, which has an amazing backstory that's been really fun to write. And obviously the new operator Shade as well. She also has an amazing backstory. Something that I've really been very conscious about writing, for instance, dialogue for these characters is who they are, what sort of words would they use. Some of that comes from the actor portraying the character. We only get to scratch the very surface of these characters' life stories and backgrounds for this game. But going into live service with DLCs, hopefully we can figure out a way to tell a little bit more about their stories, because there's a lot to it that isn't immediately apparent to the players.
La mujer que salía antes
I'm
era
really
Sade,
proud
no era
of,
Pearl, ¿verdad? No tenía el mismo
our
estilo ni
small talk
peinado.
system. It's the system where it randomly picks conversations with NPCs, civilians in the world, creating a more immersive experience and like a world that feels alive. And I think that is like such a big impact and a big difference from Payday 2. And also with the vehicles and the music from the cars going by. And from an audio perspective, or from the audio department, we usually are the ones that driving the systems and how stuff is going to work. For example, the small talk, while the narrative team are the ones that putting the information in.
It was a lot of fun to write some of the civilian dialogues. Things that only meant to be like in the background. I mean, this is the world that they're living in, and having a little bit of dialogue and things like that in the background really gives you a sense that this is an actual living, breathing world.
Quizás sea porque jugué una versión más reciente del juego, no la versión que hemos estado probando en estas últimas betas, pero sentía que había aún más inmersión, había mejores sonidos, había más conversaciones. Y es lo que os he ido explicando a lo largo de estos meses de mi sensación al jugar la beta anticipada cerrada que jugué, era esto. Un mundo vivo que respira, un montón de conversaciones, gente haciendo sus cosas. Espectacular. Estoy deseando que lo podáis probar. Quiero que lo probéis y quiero que lo veamos todos juntos en directo y en vídeo, porque va a ser una experiencia única. Lo que no viví en Payday 2 en sus inicios, creo que lo voy a vivir en Payday 3 y mejor acompañado que nunca.
It's not everybody who can come into work and write curse words in 30 different ways, so that's always fun.
I really hope that you like the game and you will play it, and as Gustavo said, make friends and just have a good old time. Keep those helmets flying.
Uy.
I honestly...
Se tirotea la cara.
No comment.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know.
If you're playing a game with that audio, you are.
Have fun.
If it's one thing that I want to promise our viewers or our players is that we will have the...
Cortan lo interesante. Se ve que se han ido de la lengua en esas partes, ¿no? Pero ha estado muy divertido. Me ha gustado mucho. Han dado información muy relevante que me interesaba mucho. La parte de la historia. Habéis visto también que hay muchos menús que han ido mejorando. A que no se parece a lo que habéis jugado estos días. Hacedme caso. Cuando lo digo hay cosas que no puedo decir, pero se sobreentiende, ¿verdad? Por mi parte, esta ha sido mi reacción al episodio número 8 del Death Diary de Payday 3. Ahora queda muy poco para salir al juego. Y iremos viendo seguramente mucha información que nos va a tocar digerir de forma muy rápida, porque el juego está a las puertas. Por mi parte, esto ya está. Espero que os haya gustado este vídeo. Dejadme en comentarios qué os ha parecido también y qué esperáis de Payday 3. Muchas gracias por acompañarme hasta aquí y nos vemos en el próximo vídeo. Un saludo, cuidaos, hasta pronto.